my concern, and I'm assuming it was probably Kyle's concern too, was are people going to even know who the fuck we are? All right, y'all, welcome back. I'm going to request, once again, as always, click that subscribe button, hit that bell icon, and make sure that you don't miss a notification to this channel, bobbyfish.com. So you guys were gracious enough to heed our request for comments, and in those comments, for you to let us know what it was that you wanted to hear. What stories did you want me to come to this channel with? And it's a resounding, it's a landslide, the amount of content that was requested for the Undisputed Era. It's fond memories in my career. It's a fond time in I think the careers of all four of us. So hell, what are we going to do? We got to give you more Undisputed Era. So today I was thinking to myself, there's so many moments and there's so many places that we could start that the only thing that makes sense is to start at the very beginning, to start when there was no Undisputed Era. This thing didn't have a name yet. It came together sort of slowly too. It's not like Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, and myself knew that this is what we were going to WWE for. We were three professional wrestlers. We had contracts with Ring of Honor, and they were all up. The pinnacle of our industry. I mean, I don't even have to say it. It's WWE. I know for myself personally at that point in my career, being in, I think I was 39, maybe even 40. I had written it off. I had figured like, okay, that's just not in the cards for me. I am quite a bit older than the other three. And so when this opportunity came across our radar, we were all jumping at it. And so let's go right to the beginning of this thing. I would say that the landscape of professional wrestling at that time was heavily influenced by NXT. NXT was the new cool thing. I think that a year or so prior to that, the cool thing was New Japan Professional Wrestling, where I know for Kyle and myself, we were fortunate enough to work there for the 2 years prior to us going to NXT. We got to do Tokyo Dome at the end of every year, and this was no different. That was coming to an end. Tokyo Dome was upon us, but there was a lot of talk of what was going to happen with Roderick Strong. I don't know if y'all remember, but Roderick Strong was already a part of NXT. Guys like Kevin Steen, El Generico had come through NXT. I believe they were already getting up to the main roster or on their way. And then for me, one of the bigger jumps was that was an arrival of like, okay, this is the place to be, was Fergal Devitt, who would later become Finn Balor. He was a guy who, as immensely talented as he was, it was just the belief was that, like, well, he's a New Japan guy. He'll always be New Japan. And I would say the same thing about Kevin Steen and El Generico, and I don't think anybody thought you were going to see them wave the WWE flag. Not because they weren't good enough, but because it just wasn't in the cards. They weren't. I mean, look at Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens. He's far from a body guy, and that's what WWE was known for. So it was like, yeah, he's not their cup of tea. But all of that was changing around this time. There was interest in Adam Cole. There was interest in Kyle O'Reilly, and unbeknownst to me at that time, there was interest in me. It was kind of a slow burn. To be honest, the first inkling that I had that there was interest was for me to be a coach, not a performer in what would become the PC, or what was the PC at that time. At this time too, I'm going to bring up a place that some of you may not know of, but it was called PWG, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. And this place, in my opinion, at that time, which would be around like 2016, 2015, PWG was the proving ground. I mean, there's no way around it. Kevin Steen had come through there. El Generico had come through there. Like, anybody who was anybody in professional wrestling that came through the independent ranks, that like did it the long way, that did it the hard way, they would have come through PWG at some point. And so I think it's conversation for another time, and we will do that on this channel. So I digress a little bit, but PWG plays a huge role in all this, a pivotal role. Well, let's fast forward a little bit. It's the Barclays Center. It's Takeover Brooklyn 3. And I don't know if y'all remember the takeovers at this time. There was just something cool about it. And there was something that, like, you did not want to miss a takeover. And when you had moments like, I keep saying the same people, but these were people that nobody expected to be in WWE. Kevin Steen, Kevin Owens. So it was like there was an air, and it was created by Triple H at that time. There was an air of like anything could happen. Like, who knows who's going to show up next? And if you think about it, if you're one of those people that remembers the Monday Night Wars, that's what made the NWO what it was that nobody saw that coming. What is Scott Hall, who at that time was Razor Ramon, what in the fuck are Diesel and Razor doing on WCW TV? And this, dare I say, was a similar iteration of this, because you had guys that nobody ever expected, that were known on a national level because of companies like Ring of Honor, because of companies like New Japan, and because of companies as little known as it was, but was PWG. And it just became the thing that was cool and the thing that was topical. And that's what Black and Gold turned into. That's what NXT was. And here was this opportunity that we had to go there. We were, at the time trying to figure out exactly what this was going to look like. And there was not a lot of opportunity for gimmick and what the visual would actually be. But we knew that we are going to be at Takeover Brooklyn, at the Barclays Center, Takeover 3, and we're doing something on the show. Now, obviously, and when I say we, I'm talking about Kyle O'Reilly, myself, and Adam Cole. And we're there. We're obviously not announced. We're not wrestling on the card, but we're there to do something. I don't know who knew and who didn't know. I know the fans did not know. I believe it was pretty well protected. Didn't really get too much leak on the dirt sheets that I'm aware of, but I don't know. And that's not my place to comment on. What my place is to comment on is what was that experience like for me. And so I want to take y'all back to the Barclays Center. And we find out that what's going to happen that evening is that during the pay-per-view, during the tag title match between Sanity, it was Eric Young and Wolfie, and they were wrestling against AOP for the tag titles. That Kyle and myself we were going to make our way from backstage, not down the ramp, but we were going to make our way over the rail, and we were going to jump. We were going to interrupt this tag title match, and we were going to put it on everybody within the space. So that left us with being two guys, not 6'4", either one of us. And we got to take out 4 guys and a manager. So we got to take out 5 guys. Not that we put our hands on Paul Ellering, but either way. So we had to figure out how we could strike quick, how we could do this without being noticed, et cetera, et cetera. And they came up, they devised this plan that Kyle and I would go out under the house lights being down. We were going to jump the rail, and we were going to jump both teams. So I remember being in the back. I remember Kyle and I on that day, we had packed our ring gear. So we had gear. We had our wrestling gear to wear, not knowing what we were going to do. But we didn't have much else. And because we were coming from the crowd, like, we didn't know if it was going to be appropriate for us to wear our gear. So what we ended up doing was decided on, like, okay, we're going to wear our gear. And anybody who remembers seeing this, they'll remember what we were wearing, but we were wearing just 2 T-shirts. And they came from my gear bag. One was a white V-neck T-shirt, and the other one was a black V-neck T-shirt, because we couldn't wear our gimmick shirts, which is the only stuff that we had at that time, which would have been like a Red Dragon shirt from Ring of Honor or from New Japan. We couldn't do that, so we had to have nondescript, and that's exactly what we did. So I wore a white V-neck, and Kyle wore a black V-neck of mine, and we wore our tights. And I'll never forget, here I am backstage, we're waiting for our cue, and I'm seated in the hallway right behind Kyle O'Reilly, who at that time was, like a brother to me. And here we are about to step foot on the stage that we both watched as children growing up, being fans of this sport. We had just left a conversation with none other than the King of Kings, Triple H, a guy that we watched growing up, who gave us basically gave us our marching orders, which was to go out there and interrupt the tag match and do what we were there to do. And, talk about nerves, talk about anxiety in that moment. Once the countdown was on, I remember the lights were going to go down, and we were seated in this hallway. I remember Kyle being in front of me, and we were both crouched down trying to be inconspicuous, but it was somewhat dark, but it was light enough that I could still see Kyle's face, and we weren't really talking. I'm sure we were both very much in our heads, and I remember my concern, and I'm assuming it was probably Kyle's concern too, was, are people going to even know who the fuck we are? Because now at that time, like, Ring of Honor was well known, but was it known like that? Was it on that level? PWG was well known. PWG was well known by the people who lived and breathed wrestling, but those weren't always only the people that were buying the pay-per-view. So you had to, if you were going to work for WWE, you had to appeal to a much larger audience than the people that are, tuning into PWG, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. That was our fan base, and we didn't know. So I remember the anxiety being pretty overwhelming at that time, but, we got an opportunity. We're going to go out and do the best we can with it. So the house lights go down. We get our Iggy from a producer or whatever it is, and they're leading us out onto what is the auditorium floor there in the Barclay Center, and the lights, it's dark, and the last thing I'm thinking, like, well, shit, if I fall down and I can't get back up, and what if they get too far ahead of me and I fuck this up? as we're making our way out onto the floor, I know that, it was dark enough that not the whole of people could see us. But as you're passing, like literally right by the person that's in the audience, we can hear whispers and things starting, and there's obviously something that's drawn some attention from them, especially if we go right by them. And during that time, I couldn't help but like wonder, like, are they saying like, "Who the fuck is that?" Or do they know, like, "Hey, is that Kyle O'Reilly?" Um, we hit our spot, we hit our cue, we jumped the rail. I'm sure a lot of you out there could go back and you can correct me, and you probably will if I get any of this wrong, but I'm just remembering it in real time of us jumping the rail. We slide into the ring. Um, I think we attacked Sanity first, maybe, or maybe the opposite, maybe the other way around. But I know I shot Zim, or Kyle and I together. We shot Zim into the post at some point. I don't remember how we went about the other stuff there, but I know with Wolfie, I think I grabbed him into a plum clinch, which is something from Muay Thai, and I delivered a few knees, and then I believe Kyle and I hit on EY what at that time we called it Chasing the Dragon. That was our finish as a tag team in New Japan and in Ring of Honor. We hit Chasing the Dragon on EY. And then I believe we set up to hit somebody with what would become our finish in WWE, which was like a high-low, which was inspired by Total Elimination, Perry Saturn, and I think his name was Kronos from ECW fame. That's where we got the idea from something being high and something being low. But Kyle did this wicked, like, sweep of the leg, and at that time I was still doing this jumping knee version of it, and we hit that because it fit the scenario more than anything else, not because we thought that would become our finish, but eventually that's what it would be. So we hit the ring and we do that part of it, and the reaction was such that it was like, okay, I'm pretty sure this was over. Like I'm pretty sure they had an idea of something. And had the inkling of like, okay, I think they know who we were. Like, I think they at least have some kind of idea. And then we went backstage, and then there was that, but that was not the end of the evening. So there was more wrestling left to be done. In fact, Bobby Roode was taking on Drew McIntyre in the main event, and that was going to be for the NXT World title. And that is where Adam Cole was scheduled, unbeknownst to the arena and to the fans at home, but scheduled to make his appearance, because now it had only been Red Dragon. It had only been Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. And so towards the end of that epic main event match with Bobby Roode and Drew McIntyre, the cue was for Kyle and I, who had already appeared, to now appear once again out ringside. But instead of being ringside and sliding into the ring, we were just going to be on the apron and just standing there smug, and leaving you to wonder, okay, well, what the fuck are these two doing here again? And it was, again, if I'm not mistaken, it was after the lights went down and came back up. It was as if we just appeared. There we are. And obviously less nerves for Kyle and myself at that time, because we had already been out there once. And but then it was Adam's opportunity to make his entrance, and he didn't come down the rampway either. Adam ran from the back out onto the floor, similar to what we did. Adam was dressed in street clothes, and he jumped the rail and slid into the ring because you got to remember, Kyle and I were out there on the ring apron to cause a distraction. So now Drew McIntyre is paying attention to us and not paying attention to Adam Cole, who slides in and gets the jump on him, hitting him from behind. I don't remember, nor is the details really all that important, in my opinion. But we put it on Drew, and if we needed to, I'm sure we did what we needed to do to Bobby Roode, but I don't remember that quite as much being a part of it. But I know that Kyle and I held Drew while Adam super kicked him. I know that he hit the Shining Wizard at some point. And then we would make our way out of the ring. And the response that we had gotten from the fans during that, like it was, man, it's one of the coolest feelings I've ever had in my life. And I shit you not, if you could bottle that, if you were a drug dealer, if you could bottle what that felt like and you could turn around and sell it, you would be multi-millionaire 100 times over. It was electric to feel what those fans were giving us in that moment. And I can't speak for Adam and Kyle, but I think at that point we knew what we were getting. We were pretty sure that they being the fans, that they were in tune with what we were giving them. But we still, at least for me, I didn't know, like, do they even know who the fuck we are? Like, I think they do, but do they really know? After all the physicality kind of worked itself out, we left ringside, and we start to make our way up the ramp. Even though that's not the way we entered the scenario, the situation, that's how we were leaving, which, in my opinion, is kind of a strategic fuck you, you know? And I think that was by design as well. And I don't know if that was Triple H's plan, but it would not shock me knowing what I know of him now if that was, because a lot of the moves are calculated and well thought out, and that's that. So to me, that's what it was. And we make our way up the ramp, and we get to the top of the ramp, and then we turn around. This, again, another one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life, but to turn around and to see the Barclays Center in all its glory during this PLE, that we just came out and surprised the fucking wrestling world. We walk up the ramp, but you got to remember, we're facing away from the crowd. So when we turn around and look at the crowd, that's the first time that, for me, Kyle O'Reilly and Adam Cole, that we had performed on some pretty big stages prior to that. Like I mentioned, the Tokyo Dome and stuff, but this is WWE. And to turn around and look out at that packed house, and a packed house that knew exactly who the fuck we were. Now, at that time, I wasn't entirely still convinced that they knew. But when Adam went down, crouched down at the top of the stage, and then came back up with both hands up in the air, and in unison, that crowd chanted back to him and to the three of us, Adam Cole, baby, which was his thing. You could not ask for any more sure confirmation that not only did they have an idea of who we were, they knew exactly who the fuck we were, and they were goddamn happy to see us. That, man, I will never forget what that felt like. It's something that a lot of y'all have asked for me to talk about on here, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for letting me retell this story to you, because it's one of my favorite of not only my career, but of my life. And, yeah, I hope I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, y'all, click that subscribe button. Hit that notification bell because there's more of these to come. I hope you enjoyed it. NXT Black and Gold. What can I say, y'all? That was the beginning.